Okay, hi everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to a better lifestyle. Today I have the pleasure to have on my podcast Ari Rastegar. Ari is an entrepreneur, a real estate investor. He's also an author. So he had a book out a few years ago. So we'll be talking about that. Welcome, Ari, to the podcast.
Thanks for having you. Also, you didn't add to my resume that I'm also a failure.
Well, okay, we'll add that. We'll say he's a past failure and now he's a successful entrepreneur. So, and I think also you have lawyer in your resume
I'm
too.
I'm a lawyer too. Yes. I'm
Yes,
a recovering lawyer.
you're a recovering lawyer. Okay, so he wears many hats. He wears many hats. So, Ari, I'm gonna jump in right into the topic. As we talked about, we'll be talking about the gift of failure. You had a book out a few years ago. Why did you write the book?
I wrote the book. It's a good question. I was originally going to write the book, title the book "What I've Learned Thus Far," and I have three beautiful children. We've built a very big business, and I've gone through some life. I've lived some life. I've taken some punches. I've got back up a little bit, gone through some school, worked some jobs, blew up some businesses, had some businesses make a lot of money, and and I remember a time that I was flipping burgers at Johnny Rockets, and my father raised me as an Iranian man, raised me as a single dad. And basically, he went to law school later in life. So he's only been a lawyer maybe 8 or 9 years longer than me, by the way. And he decided early that he wasn't able to bring money from Iran after the revolution and all the stuff that, happened. So he thought, well, how do I put my son, in a good environment? So he figured that we would move into the richest neighborhood in Dallas, but he did it by taking night school at SMU, a university that's in the school district. So we lived in student housing of SMU, very wealthy school in Dallas, so I could go to Highland Park High School and middle school and high school. So I was the poorest kid in the richest neighborhood. Think of it like that. And my dad's idea that maybe you know, something would something would rub off. And that proved to be one of the best things he ever did for me in my entire life for a variety of reasons. But one of the things that was very important is when I started to work in high school, and a lot of the rich kids didn't work, the mall, North Park Mall, which has the Gucci store and is the rich people mall. There was a little burger shop in there, and I worked in that little 50s burger shop when all the rich kids and their parents and all these things would come in there and basically make fun of me for, working at this place. And I remember thinking like how much that sucked in some regard, but I had visions of grandeur. I had visions of being able to do something more with my life. And my dad gave me a copy of a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill when I was 13. So I kept the book with me in my little waiter's little thing, and I would read it and I'd write down my goals and do affirmations in the mirror in the bathroom and say, I'm a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. And little did I know that I was thinking too small. Long story short, probably still am thinking too small, by the way. And I decided one day when I was in there, and I'll never forget it, that I said to myself, if I ever make it to the other side, meaning from flipping the burger to being the rich person buying the burger, if I ever made it to that other side, I would tell the truth of what it took to get there. And sitting here looking at my kids, looking at the millions of square feet of property we've developed, the hundreds of acres, that we own, the money we manage for public pension plans, insurance companies, firefighters, hundreds of high net worth investors. If you build everything we own, which will probably cost another probably 400 or 500 million, more of cash to build, is billions and billions of dollars of value. And I wanted to think about what I could share with somebody that might have been in the same position I was in, or had a dream, or thought they could do something. Because for me to do anything seemed completely impossible. It's totally delusional. And in thinking about it, I've asked myself, what have I got good at? Like, what am I really good at that I can deserve to have anything? And the only thing I could think about was failure. And then I started to think, failure, it sounds so bad, but failure is how you learn how to win. Like everybody who learns by failing. That's not like that's actually watch a kid learn how to play the piano. They stumble, they do it. Like someone shoot a basketball, a kid learn how to walk in public speaking, learning to play the violin. I don't know, like math class, you fail. And I realized that failing forward, but taking a moment to pause and look at that failure, assess what went right, what went wrong, and then most importantly, keep going. Because if you keep going, it's not failure, it's temporary defeat. Temporary. Lose a battle to win a war. And I went back through the biggest failures that crushed me, that come to find out, pressure is what makes diamonds. When you're lifting weights, pressure is what builds muscle. And I learned from Tony Robbins, who's a national treasure, by the way, that problems are the gifts that we grow from. Because when you get that problem, you have the opportunity to grow, to change, to evolve, because you don't have any choice. Either it crushes you and it's over, or you take something and you evolve. And I kept looking at my life and I kept looking at my life. And I thought the more pressure I was under, the more that I was able to evolve, the more I was able to learn, and just continuing to persist and keep going, no matter what the trial that came about was. And the book was born out of that desire, to share the truth. Because the first lines of the book are, I hope you fail. I hope you fail a lot. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because the greatest achievers in the history of mankind all failed. And the bigger they failed, Masayoshi Son, who is the most successful technology investor ever in history, Japan's probably still the richest man in Japan. He lost $70 billion in one day. 99% of their stock value dropped in one day. Okay. And he at one time was the largest shareholder of NVIDIA. And I saw him and Jensen talking the other day. He sold it early. He did certain deals that made 100 times their money. He had has the biggest venture capital investment fund in history called the Vision Fund with $100 billion. He also lost more money in a single day than anybody in the history of mankind. My point in telling you that is he failed bigger than anybody, and that's why he's actually successful. Because he took the time to see what was actually happening. You talk to the CEO of NVIDIA, the same thing. He was speaking at the school the other day, and they asked him, what do you wish for the young entrepreneurs? He said, I wish you pain and suffering. And it sounds like really like a jolt, but in reality, that pain and that suffering, that endurance, that resistance is what shapes your soul, is what shapes your body, shapes your muscles, shapes your mind, so you can overcome the old you and ultimately become the person that's able to house that success, that achievement, or that fulfillment.
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. You've mentioned one thing before in regards to failure, the good thing. Can you tell me five good things about failure?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you 500 good things about failure. One is when you fail, you take a very close look at all the things that went wrong. And in a lot of times when you're a young entrepreneur, all you're thinking about is how much money you're going to make. Professional investors think about all the ways they're going to lose money. So when you're thinking about all the way we're going to make money, make money, you become reckless. You don't think about all the things that could possibly go wrong. And once you learn that, my big entertainment company that I write about in the book that failed for a variety of reasons taught me everything I needed to know about investing because it taught me how to plan for the unplannable. Because I did this huge party, Sports Illustrated, Black Eyed Peas, halftime Super Bowl party, and then the NBA All Star in LA with Snoop Dogg at the Playboy Mansion, and then an ice storm hit and the whole party in Dallas. And then Legionnaire's disease broke out at the Playboy Mansion. And my point in telling you that is, how do you learn to plan for the unplannable? How can somebody actually teach you that lesson? But to be a professional investor, you actually learn how to plan for the unplannable. Period. Health and wellness, working crazy amount of hours, not sleeping for days at a time, having doctors prescribe all sorts of medications for ADD and and then hitting a fucking wall and then reinventing your health and realizing that's the source of achievement. A small health problem, just enough to learn how to have a lifetime of wellness, a lifetime of energy. What a blessing. What an enormous, enormous, enormous blessing. I can keep going on because it doesn't matter what it is. Anything that actually worked that you see for me personally that has worked came from failure. Even this suit, this beautiful suit that my tailor made me. If you saw the way I dressed when I was a kid, you would be embarrassed. So failing how to dress taught me how to go find a great tailor. And a great tailor might be the only reasonable person in your life because they're the only one that measures you every time they see you, remeasures you every time they see you to see what's changed, what's moved, what's looked. Everybody else just deals with you based on their memory of you, through their vantage point, through their own fears, their own prejudices, their own conclusions about you. But this life is about experimenting and experiencing, evolving and changing and moving. And if you're not doing that, you're dying because pain plus reflection is what equals progress. Pain, reflect, progress. Progress is the source of happiness. Progress is the source of joy. People that don't have those things in their life aren't moving forward. Doesn't mean it's a straight line, but having a purpose, having something that you're drawn to, failing at it, trying again, striving, coming short. This is the process of being a human being. And like I said, study the greatest achievers in the world, and you will see that they failed way more than ordinary people. Fyodor Dostoevsky said there's only two types of people in the world: ordinary people and extraordinary people. And the extraordinary part about them is the extraordinary failures that they endured but continue to persist.
Can you give me two more?
Two more. Give me a category.
Mental state in regards
Mental
to
state's a great one. Meditation has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. And a failure was thinking that some sort of pharmaceutical medication can deal with anxiety. And I think it's maybe a failure of a doctor, it's a failure of my own, but finding my meditation practice. Go find Dr. Joe Dispenza. Anybody listening to this that has ever experienced depression, anxiety, fear, or even health problems, go do a 7-day meditation retreat and learn the power of the mind, the power of the heart, the power of changing your own frequency, your own heart rate variability so that you can actually take control and change your life. I've done a lot of work with Dr. Joe, a lot of work with transcendental meditation, but that work and that failure of thinking that a pill or a substance or something external could quell and solve my own anxiety, my own fears, my own depressive tendencies was such a colossal failure that desperation put me in a place where I would close my eyes, where every single day, twice or three times a day, I close my eyes between 20 minutes to an hour and find that inner peace, observe the space around me, and then let my mental waves, let my heart wave patterns calm, and then start to remember that I'm the creator of my life, not just the manager of circumstances.
um, what how does someone with all those failures, if they're experiencing that, how can they avoid being negative throughout the process?
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question. And You have the choice at any given moment to what you focus on. Okay. Being negative and making negativity a staple part of your life, the majority, negative and positive, night, night, daytime, there's always two in everything. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. Hot water, cold water. The human mind understands two, duality. So there is going to be both, but you have a choice of what you're going to focus on. What's wrong is always available. So is what's right. So, meaning in that moment, you have to strengthen your muscle, the muscle that keeps you focused on. So, if I asked you, Richard, right now, could you tell me 10 things about your life that you don't need to tell me, but could you tell me 10 things about your life?
Yeah, of
But
course.
could you tell me 10 things that are beautiful about your life also?
Yeah.
Then think more about the 10 things that are beautiful. That's it. That's it. That's the whole game. So every day when you wake up, you have a decision. Do I want to think more about the things that, or do I want to think more about the things that are beautiful? And the more that you practice thinking about the things that are beautiful, the easier it becomes. Just like lifting weights. At the beginning, lifting 10 pounds is hard. But if you go to the gym 150 times, you'll be lifting 20, 30, 40 pounds. And same thing goes with the mental endurance and the mental exercise, psychological exercise of controlling your focus on the beautiful things that are in your life.
Some people might think that they might be born on the wrong side of the track, meaning that they have no money, no connection, maybe bad credit, and they want to get into business. They feel like they have limited resources.
The only thing that's bad about that is that feeling. All of those things are asset. Every asset is a liability. You learn that in accounting. Every asset that you have is also a liability. You say, "Oh, I own this huge big house." And that's a great thing. Well, I'd like to see them pay the property taxes and fix the roof and pay the mortgage and deal with all the maintenance. There's an old Persian saying, that says, whoever has the bigger roof when it's winter has more snow on it. So there's always two sides to it. That's just a way of thinking. It's not about resources. It's about being more resourceful. So if you want to focus on my credit, my this, my that, great. That's going to be the life that you experience. Or you can turn your focus to the other things that you have, your health, your love, your life, the air, the oxygen, the heart that beats in your chest 100,000 times a day, and you don't have to do about it. It's your choice. You have the choice. And whatever you focus on grows. That's the law. Focus, growth.
And how does someone deal with uncertainty? Because success is not guaranteed.
No, that by the way, there's certain human needs. Everyone needs a certain amount of certainty and uncertainty. Imagine if you had certainty about everything. You'd be fucking bored if every day you woke up and you know everything that was going to happen that day. Uncertainty is a gift. So something different is going to happen in your life. If you knew every day I'm going to eat the same restaurant, the same food, meet the same person, go to the same place, drive the same car, and everything was certain, you know how boring that would be?
Can you imagine?
It'd be boring as hell.
Well, people,
Uncertain
well,
Uncertainty is one of the human needs for variety, for
yeah, we
things to
don't,
change and pop up.
yeah, we don't think about that. So,
Well,
yeah.
now you can.
Uh, Another question. You talk also in your bio that you had to rebuild your health. So, did you have a health crisis in the past?
Kinda, yeah. I had a mental health crisis in a certain way and a physical health crisis in the sense where, like I said, when I was first starting my business, I was not sleeping for days at a time. Doctors were giving me all sorts of different prescriptions, and I'd lost 30 pounds, and I was eating terrible food, eating too much sugar, too much junk. And I just felt like shit. And I felt like my body was going to crash. And if you look at my blood work then and my blood work now is absolutely night and day. And one of my investors is one of the top age management doctors in the world, started to look at my blood and started to give me insight into how blood work works, how eating works, how vitamins work, how hormones work. And I started to really analyze what all that stuff is and started to take control of my health and take control of what I put in my mouth, how I move my body, how I do posture, how I manage my own mental health with meditation and all the things that I said. But yeah, I hit a wall. I hit a wall about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And if you look at pictures of me 10 years ago, you will think I was 20 years older than I am now. Truly. I mean, dark circles under my eyes, skinny, like looking like a skeleton. And turning it all around has given me the energy and the vibrance to be able to keep working and keep doing the things and keep contributing and keep growing. Because if you don't have energy, you don't have, health is an investment. It's not and that's the way you need to think about it. If you invest in it and you put money in the savings account, you put money into the thing, over time, you'll have a retirement. Same thing with this body. You get one body, you get one place to live. Money comes and goes. You get one body.
Do you think sometimes people use cliches like too like randomly? Like sometimes they say
Cliches are
things.
cliches for a reason. Cliches are cliches for a reason because they're probably pretty true, And so, um, I think a cliche is a tool. I love cliches in some regard because it speaks a piece of truth. Some of it, it depends on which one you're using.
I want to enjoy the process.
Enjoy the
Why I say enjoy the process because sometimes, let's say you're really going through a dark time, yeah,
Well,
a
I have
dark
a different
time.
way.
Yeah.
I have a different way I look at that.
Okay.
That's worked for me.
Okay.
We have Rastegar t-shirts that say TTP. Trust the process. You might not like it, but you can trust it. And you don't have to enjoy the process, but you do have to enjoy the result. And so if you can trust the process, even through those dark nights of the soul, and you start to get an outcome, enjoy the outcome, but trust the process.
So what would you think are the few keys to winning in life and in business?
Health, taking care of your health, number one above everything. Health is wealth. There's another cliche for you. It's true. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. If you don't feel good, ask somebody that's very healthy about their dreams in life. They have a lot of them. I'm going to be this. I'm going to travel here. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. Ask a person with stage 4 cancer how many dreams they have. One dream. That's to be healthy.
Yeah. Last words in regards to everything we talked about, the gift of failure.
Yeah. Take a moment when you fail, which you will, and I hope you do. You get kicked kicked and land on your. Don't get up so quickly. Sit there for a little bit. Think about what happened. Wonder how you got there. What went right? What went wrong? So when you get back up, you have a plan. You know where to go again. Look at Kobe Bryant. Watched more film than anybody. Tom Brady too. They watched more film than anybody. The good and the bad. Why? They could see what worked, what didn't work. And if you don't take the time to have introspection, you're never going to learn. You're just going to keep repeating the same over again. And what is another cliche for repeating the same act over and over again, expecting a different result?
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity.
I think it's Einstein that said that.
Um, Whoever.
Yeah.
My favorite Einstein quote is, I think that the universe is infinite, but I know that human stupidity for sure is. Something
I
like that.
I forgot. I don't know if I asked before, if you mentioned it before. How did you bounce back from your failures back then?
I had well, one of the big ones in business. My wrestling coach showed up to my hotel room and told me to get off my. And it's like this is a moment. I wrote about it in the book. Literally after one of the biggest business failures in my whole life, he literally walked in and said, "This moment is going to define your whole life. Like what you do right now is going to define everything." And he was right. And we talk about it all the time. He's one of my dearest friends, mentors. His son's worked for me for years, but how you respond to failure is what matters. And you have a choice of what you focus on.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
You can go to rastegarcapital.com to learn about our investments, things that we do. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can Google my name, Ari Rastegar, go to LinkedIn, at Ari Rastegar at TikTok, at Rastegar on Instagram. A simple Google search, you can be able to find us and reach out. We work very hard to put out, good quality things. We're running a big business, helping a lot of different types of investors. But we're here living life just like you are.